over to you.
Yes, sir.
So good morning to all the, I think 73 participants have logged in and some of them are on Facebook Live also. So good morning to all the construction professionals who have logged in and good morning to the speaker of the day, Engineer Bishwajit Jana, who has taken off his time to join with us on this 90-second webinar. So it's nice that we are continuing with this webinar for the benefit of all the construction professionals, just to share information as well as, kind of have an information exchange. So before I start off with the introduction, I would request all the professionals to please feel free to type in your comments in the chat box whenever you are listening to the presentation, so that those questions can be taken towards the end of the presentation. And until unless there is this continuous exchange of what you call your comments, if you can put it on the chat box, I think there would be some kind of involvement, and that would be appreciated, so that we also can have a feedback from your side. So that is one thing. And second thing is that, as all of you know, we are having this presentation and this talk both on Facebook Live as well as on YouTube. So in case you would like to watch this again, I think you can go to that and have a look at that. So that is one thing. And almost all the 91 webinars which has been conducted till now, I think maybe yesterday's or day before yesterday's webinar may not have been uploaded on YouTube, but otherwise you will find almost all the webinars are on YouTube, but otherwise it's on Facebook Live. So that is one important thing. So we have just to give a brief introduction of the organization. All of you know about Ramco Cements Limited. As all of you know, Ramco Cements, apart from making cement, also has experience in making ready-mix concrete as well as dry mortar products. Operates one of the largest wind farms in the country. Generates on an average of 2,400 lakh units from the wind power. So one thing is that the renewable energy is very important, because as all of us know, from a sustainability perspective, as well as from energy efficiency perspective, we need to look at alternative sources of energy, and at the same time, we need to implement it. And another thing is that what we have tried to do is that we have also, whenever we make cement, apart from our research center, we make concrete at our ready-mix concrete unit, so that we get the entire feedback of cement, concrete, as well as the research aspect of it. So one thing is there, we ensure that latest technology is incorporated at all stages of manufacturing, whether it's from mining, because mining, if you see surface miners,
Anil sir, you're there? I think a little technical issue. Thank you. I think power has gone at Anil sir's place, Engineer Bishwajit sir. In another minute's time or so, he will join in through the phone. We regret the inconvenience.
Yes, sir.
He should be back any time now. Thank you. I think the mic is muted, sir. I'll unmute it from my end.
bit of a connectivity problem from my side. So let me just again share the presentation before. In fact, as I was telling, we have the various kind of initiatives that we have been taking in the recent past. One of the most important thing that you would notice. Am I able to share it? Are you able to see the presentation?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Bishwajit sir, you there?
Yes, sir. I'm here.
Okay. Can I request you to switch on the video, please?
Yes,
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, it's getting loaded.
So we have been doing all this, and especially as far as blended cement is concerned, we have been able to introduce blended cement and ensure that the various brands within the blended cement, whether it is PPC or PSC, we have been able to do that. And of course, various kinds of testing equipment, testing of raw materials, as well as testing of cement at various stages has been implemented, and that is very important thing as well as this. So, the customization of cement ranging from ordinary Portland cement, rapid hardening Portland cement, PPC, PSC, as well as SRC cement. Now, ordinary Portland cement, as all of us know, the latest IS code, it talks about IS 269, and we have various brands of cement, 43, 53, 43 infra, 53 infra. Infra cement is meant for longer slump retention time. Then we have the Ramco Superfast for the precast applications. Ramco Super Grade, Super Creed, Super Fine, Super Plus are various brands of Portland Coastal cement. Super Steel and Samudra for slag cement, as well as Super Coast for SRC. So what is important is try to understand the type of concrete that is being used, and then look at the type of cement, non-structural cement products from our dry mix plant. And of course, the Ramco Supercrete cement, which is a cement which has been introduced specifically for concreting and to give a high performance concrete with regard to compressive strength, durability, as well as workability. So this is the cement which we have launched a year back, and it has got very good feedback from various professionals as far as these three parameters are concerned. High compressive strength they have been able to get, because if you look at small sites, the kind of practices that they follow is not up to the mark. So what we have done is that we have tried to develop a cement. Of course, it doesn't mean that one should compromise on the good construction practices, as well as curing has to be done. But what is important is that this cement gives you high compressive strength and at the same time low heat of hydration. That is where you will get a combination of both high compressive strength as well as enhanced durability, along with excellent workability. So all these three parameters are there when you use Ramco Supercrete cement. We have the Ramco Research Development Center at Chennai, where we do a number of works. And that is very important, because if you see the R&D investment in the industry, it needs to be increased. And that is where we have been able to contribute as well as R&D development is concerned. And we have various equipments to test the cement as well as to do mixed design, and to ensure that our customer gets the best service as far as the concrete is concerned. So various kind of testing methods for checking the durability of concrete. We have the rapid chloride penetration test. We have the, as all of us know, the durability is measured using specimen, and charge is being passed, and based on the amount of charge, you can evaluate the durability of concrete. And then we have the DIN standard water permeability test, where water is passed, and we ensure that water is passed under a pressure, and then based on the penetration of water, we can check the durability of concrete. So that is very important, and so we give importance to the durability of concrete. So these are some of the things that we have got, and we work on the basis of right product for right application, because that is where from an engineering perspective, that is what matters. We need to use the right cement for the right application. So some number of awards that we have received: the 4 Leaves Award, and the customers who are associated with us, Larsen & Toubro, ITT Cementation, and various projects in the eastern part of the country. So we have a very good clientele in the eastern part of the country also, within a very short period of time, and that has happened because of the quality and the kind of service that we are offering, whether it is in terms of regular supply as well as the quality parameters. They have been able to get it. So these are some of the points that we thought we would share with you. As far as today's speaker is concerned, we have Engineer Vishwajit Jana, who is the Assistant Professor, Department of Civil Engineering, DRIEMS Autonomous Engineering College, Cuttack. So he has completed his BTech in Civil Engineering from KIIT University, Bhubaneswar, followed by MTech Structural Engineering from NIT Roorkela. He is a visiting faculty to Department of Civil Engineering, CUTM, Bhubaneswar. He worked as a civil engineer, worked as a design consultant. He was associated with Stoop Consultants Private Limited at Kolkata Metro. He was a senior engineer at Simplex Infrastructure, and assistant engineering in Nagarjuna Construction Company, IOCL Paradeep. He was awarded a research project, waste utilization in self-compacting concrete and effective assessment of environmental benefits under collaborative research and innovation scheme. And he was also awarded twice as Super Teacher 2019 and 20 by Lecture Notes Private Limited, Bhubaneswar. He He was invited as keynote speaker on skill development initiatives for youth organized by College of Engineering and Technology, Bhubaneswar, and he was provided research guidance to 20 MTech students so far, out of which 6 has completed and 14 are ongoing. To his credit, he has many research publications in renowned journals like ICE and International Journal of Civil Engineering and Technology. So with those few words, let me invite Engineer Jana to share his presentation on ultra high performance concrete, because nowadays we talk about performance of concrete. It is not only compressive strength that is important, it is workability, it is durability, and measurement of all these parameters that gains critical importance. So let's listen to Engineer Bishwajit Jana, who would be sharing his experiences with us, and I am sure this would add value to all of us. As I was indicating, please feel free to type in your comments on the chat box so that we can take the questions towards the end, and the clarifications would also be taken up. Over to you, Engineer Bishwajit Jana. Welcome to this webinar, 90-second webinar. Thank you so much.
Good morning, and thank you for your nice introduction, sir. First of all, thank the Ramco Cement team and sir, you, A.K. Pillai sir, and Suraj sir, who has helped me in technical issues to fix the technical issues, and special thanks to Engineer Suman Chandra Sahu, who is working as an engineer at Jajpur. So who has coordinated all these things and giving me an opportunity to share whatever little knowledge I have, and simultaneously I also gaining experience by taking this an opportunity. So thank you all of you, and thank you all the participants who have joined today's webinar. Sir, now I am sharing my screen.
Yes, it is loading. Yeah, we are able to see that. We are able to see.
So once again, good morning, everyone. So this talk is going on to be ultra high performance concrete and its material design and properties. So we will cover the material design part of ultra high performance concrete in the first phase, and in the second phase we will go to the properties of ultra high performance concrete. So we have conventional concretes that typically have a strength of 20 to 25 megapascal, and up to 50 megapascal for high performance concrete, and you can also go up to 100 megapascal in that case. But ultra high performance concrete are designed with a compressive strength of 150 megapascal. So they are also designed for high tensile strength of about 10 megapascal. And you can achieve this by extremely dense packing of particles, by make the microstructure so dense so that the particles are so close to each other, and stresses are transferred very nicely. And also you can add quite a bit of steel fibers to these materials so that you can increase the ductility of these members. Also, the water binder ratio is extremely low, that it will help to get a very high packing and very low porosity. So it is a combined effort of reducing the water cement ratio and improving the particle packing, and using steel fibers to improve the ductility. So next, a high compressive strength is not just enough for concrete, or when we are going to design for ultra high performance concrete. So you can have high compressive strength for certain applications, but you need a high ductility also. So high resistance to corrosion and aspects of durability also in high performance concrete is required. So the idea is that you can arrange the material microstructure through careful selection of materials and careful design of constituents and proper construction practices to get a really high property of ultra high performance concrete. So that this is the main or core idea of designing the ultra high performance concrete. Now, what are the some advantages that you don't have with conventional concretes, whereas you can say the strength. You can get the strength up to 100 megapascal with the high performance concrete. But in conventional concrete, if you have the really heavy load bearing members like bridge girders or a breeze column that is supposed to carry extremely high loads, and so you need extremely high tight rebar cages. So if you have such tight rebar cages and you have so much of steel, it obviously increases the cost of the structural member. And you need such kind of extremely dense reinforcement to control shear cracking. So some applications are there with enhanced tensile strength. You can reduce the shear cracking by improving the shear strength, and also the tensile cracking is also reduced. The fiber reinforcement, so the discrete fiber reinforcement, steel fibers that are spread in a discrete fashion in ultra high performance concrete, it helps in maintaining the tensile capacity beyond the cracking, which means you have high ductility of the member. So the reinforcement, and if you have such a very high strength of your concrete, your development length for your rebars can be reduced. So you have a lot of this type of advantages which you don't get in conventional concrete through ultra high performance concrete. So a few applications is being used in United States for a few years now for very selected applications. These are a couple of bridges, that is Marshall Bridge in Iowa and Cat Point Creek Bridge in Virginia. These are some of the bridges that have used in ultra high performance concrete in its construction. So the way they normally want to use the ultra high performance concrete is for bridge decks, because bridge decks are very supposedly very heavy loads and carrying members that are supposed to last for a much longer period of time. But before ultra high performance concrete was used for bridge decks, the more critical application was bridge connections. So when you have precast concrete bridges, you can do normal high performance precast bridge decks, but when you are bring onto the site, you need to join the precast bridges. And as you know, for any connection, for any chain, the weak links is a connection. So if you have those connections which are normally site cast concrete, so if you don't have really good quality control, those connections are normally weak. And if you can think of vehicles driving through the bridge, you can think of these connections being subjected to extreme fatigue loading. So you will have a much faster failure of those connections. Generally they used steel connections to improve that, but then we have an issue in steel and concrete, issues with corrosion, and so UHPC is now a preferred options to connect these girders. So you can do complete ultra high performance concrete bridge decks like you see in those pictures. You can have ultra high performance concrete overlays for bridges, existing bridges, and to retrofit them for high traffic. And you can have a thinner 3-inch or 4-inch thick overlays for bridges as a retrofit. And also you can have column encasing, that is a column for a bridge that is now required to take a higher load, which can be encased with the ultra high performance concrete, which is a very similar kind of encasing concrete columns in steel as a retrofit methodology. So a lot of applications are there for ultra high performance concrete. So structural design is going to be different, but I will concentrate mostly on the materials part in this talk. So next, there are again ultra high performance concrete pie girders. Pie girders, generally it is called pie girders because they have a shape of the Greek alphabet pi. So these are very common bridge girder elements. So pie girders are very common, and you can see pie girders being implemented in Jackie Park Bridge in Iowa, which is already I have shown you in the previous slide. So next, come to the field connections, like I talked about that you can have deck level connections. The connections are the deck level where the two panels of the deck are connected by means of ultra high performance concrete, or you can have the deck or the girder connected to the support structure through ultra high performance concrete. So multiple ways of doing these connections. The advantages of such extreme high strength is that the connections can be small, and you are always better of doing smaller connection than larger connection, because connections are the main where the weak points is there at the connections. So you can now afford to have smaller connections, and you don't require the post tensioning of concrete within those connections because these have extremely high strength or extremely high tensile strength also. So let's talk about the material design. How do you design the ultra high performance concrete for such very high strength and very high durability? So the idea is that there are commercial mixers where you can buy the commercial ultra high performance concrete mixers about $2,000 per cubic meter, which is extremely expensive. To give you a perspective, so a conventional concrete cost about $125 per cubic meter. So talked about 50 to 20 times the cost, because these materials are proprietary and they are very special admixtures and the additives. But the idea is to make the science simpler. So so that you can make these materials with locally available raw materials, so that it will be easy for us to design the ultra high performance concrete. So in that case, you don't have to go very fancy powders or chemical admixtures. So you can actually make it with local available admixtures or locally available materials. If you control what you choose to put in your concrete and how you make your concrete really well. So you need extremely high admixtures. This is because your water cement ratio is going to be very low. That is, water cement ratio is lower than 0.2, that is in between 0.16 and 0.18, which will design in further slides. So it has to be a lot of admixtures. So now we talked about connections. If you have to do connections, the concrete has to be self-compacting or self-consolidating to go and be poured into the connection, which I also showed you very dense reinforcement casing in the previous slides. So if you have to get concrete into that, you need really flowable self-compacting concrete. So one of the challenges is 0.2 water cement ratio or less than 0.2 water cement ratio, and to get itself compacted. So, and then if you want to look at the packing of particles, you want to make sure that the powders are extremely well packed, and for that you need a range of powders. So if you remember the science of packing, a single size will be able to fill in the spaces very well. So you need a gradation of sizes so that every space is sequentially filled, and we have to do it with all the different size ranges. So if you look at concrete, you have the size ranges starting from 5 millimeter, 10 millimeter, or 20 millimeter size of aggregates to submicron particles like silica film. So you have such a vast size of distributions, and the other challenge is make sure that you have enough particles in all these size ranges to fill the pores really well, and using of a lot of admixtures to make sure that this gets really well flowing, and you can pour your concrete well into all these very tiny areas, so that which is the challenges for us to design in the ultra high performance concrete. Next, we'll talk this problem in two different stages. Like I said, two different ways of doing. You can have the deck and girder connections, or you can have connections between deck panels, and you can see the reinforcement in both cases being different. Next, we'll come to the some common ultra high performance concrete mixers available in the market. So there are mostly commercial mixers. The first thing that you noticed is a very high amount of cement. So you need a very high amount of Portland cement for two different reasons. My first one is my water cement ratio is very low, which means only a small fraction of cement is going to be hydrating. If only a small fraction of cement is going to be hydrating, I need more of cement to make up enough of the reaction product. So in that case, and the second reason is that I need a lot of fine powders. So cement is being a fine powder, the property of which you know really well that you can control. And that is why two reasons why generally we do high amount of cement. And but in that case, the downside is high shrinkage. So that is why this has to be really well controlled in terms of curing and in terms of using materials like internal curing admixtures or super absorbent polymer, something like that. Now I have put an arrow in all the fine sand in all these in my slides. So one of the reason is that sand is pretty much the only aggregate in ultra high performance concrete. The reason being, again, we're basically looking at ultra high performance mortar to design the ultra high performance mortar. So generally, all the commercial mixers, but I will show you actually how to design ultra high performance concrete. So the reason why everybody uses mortar, because to control mortar properties is much easier than controlling the concrete properties. So anybody who has worked with concrete and mortar, know if you want to look at flowability of a mortar is much more controllable as far as flowability is concerned than concrete, because it's in mortar you really have the problems of bleeding and segregation. Whereas the concrete, you end up with bleeding and segregation if your quantities are not proportioned correctly. So one reason why we have most ultra high performance concrete using sand is to make sure that flowability criteria is satisfied. And also you will see in these tables a lot of other fine powders. There are silica fumes, round quartz, etc. So there is a lot of different types of fine powders generally used to make sure that we have a wider particle size distribution to fit in all the pores. So how do we design this material? So how do we start designing from its first principle? So you have to select that binder materials you actually want, and that is the most important part. So cement is given you need. So if we use cement, what other than cement? So what are the common ideas that we have to select a material than other than cement? So first one is sustainability. If you have to make sure that you are using less cement as possible, so you can use a lot of other base materials besides cement. So the other aspect is your cement has a certain size distributions. So if you look at particle size distribution of cement, you will have sizes from 1 micron roughly to about 100 microns. So normally from 1 micron to 100 micron, generally it is distributed. So what happens to the sizes smaller than 1? So we don't bother about sizes more than 100 micron because we have sand which will fill in those spaces. But what about smaller than 1? So in that case, the thing that comes to mind quickly is silica film. So you have to now have materials that are smaller than 1 micron, which is silica film. So, and also we can have metakaolin also, which you can use if you need some aluminate effect in it. So we have used both silica film and metakaolin, and I will tell you why we have done that. Then you have to ensure that the particles are packed really well, not just packing, but you have to ensure that they are reactive enough also. So what is the mostly reacting in our system initially? So it is a cement and all the other materials that you put in and helping cement to do its job. So for example, if you put in silica film at very early ages, which assess nucleation agent or nucleation sites, so all those materials are helping cement, which means you have to put those in a volume and ensure that they are distributed enough for the cement to do its job. So, and remember, all of these are happening at a water binder ratio in between 0.16 or 0.18, which is less than 0.2. So now the challenge is to make sure that all these family of materials act synergistically at that low water cement ratio, which is the challenge or the first challenge. So getting of aggregates again. Here I can avoid the aggregates completely and have a self-consolidating ultra high performance concrete mortar. But the problem of not having aggregates is again come to the minds, that is dimensional stability. So your shrinkage is going to be much higher if you don't have the aggregates. So in that case, what size of aggregates then can I use? I cannot use larger than 25 mm aggregates because this won't flow. Because we have the space between the rebar is probably 10 or 15 mm. So I need very small aggregates to go in, and what kind of aggregates you can use. How do I choose those family of aggregates? So these are second challenges we have. So choosing the binder, choosing the aggregates, and then proportioning the mix so that all the contrasting requirements should be satisfied. So we'll go one by one. So the first strategy is to design the paste, and this is the most crucial strategy, as you know. So, and it is not because nobody knows how to design the paste, but because you have so many different combinations of materials that you can choose for paste. So the first idea should be what is locally available. Everybody has cement. Slag is generally available. Fly ash is generally available. Silica fume and metakaolin are not very hard to get, and generally most of the time people are using ground quartz because they take ground quartz and grind it really fine and to improve the reactivity. So, but generally you should avoid ground quartz because it is very expensive and also it is not very locally available. If we talk to a ready mix company to manufacture ultra high performance concrete, they will manufacture only the locally available metals. They are not going to source the ground quartz, which is for ground quartz. They have again they have different silo for that and be able to process it. So it will be not an economic point of view. It is not well. So I will show you two methods, or actually combine of one method which will help you design any kind of paste for ultra high performance concrete. So this is a very generalized method that you can use for any kind of paste that we want to use for ultra high performance applications, and we rely on two different requirements. One, as you see on the right, that is packing of particles, and the other one is flowability or rheology of rheology. So these are two things that we will look at. First, then the second strategy is on packing of aggregates. So I will give you a strategy and a methodology to actually how to pack the aggregates and then put paste in the aggregates together to form the material that we want for ultra high performance concrete. So we have different types of materials, as already I have said, and you can see here that we have the cement, which is a median size of 11.2, and for slag the median size taken here is taken 8.9, and for fly ash the median size of 17.5 17.9 microns, whereas metakaolin the median size is 5.3. But here I have not mentioned the silica fume because the sizes of silica fume is sub-micron. So then we use two different types of limestone powders of 3 microns and 1.5 micron size. Here we have used limestone that you can have alumina also from metakaolin, and you can have a combination of limestone and alumina to react better. That will be better strategy than using silica fume, even though we have used silica fume also. So next, so what we did is with the available of materials, we designed a large number of system of paste mixes. Actually, for the study purpose, we have taken 33 mixes, having very low water binder ratio of 0.24, and again 0.24 theoretically we have taken, but actually even less than 0.24 we have taken. That is 1.25% of high range water reducing admixture, which is a polycarbonate base water reducing admixture, and 1.25% of solid by mass of binder, which actually translates to about 5% of superplasticizer by mass of cement. 5% means I will show you how to add that also, the designing part. So if you have 5% of superplasticizer, you mix it with all the available water and you pour it in, and you are going to get one large number. Means you are going to you have to failure in that case, because you should not have to mix it in simultaneously. So in that case, nothing is going to be happen. So I'll show you the different mixing methods that need to be changed if you want to design this type of ultra high performance concrete. So next, microstructural packing parameters. So packing, we did some computational work, and again, this does not have to computational if you know what you are using, but we want to do a wide range of materials so that we can start looking at packing of all these materials in different spaces. So if you see the bottom left most picture, it has only two size of particles, the cement and fly ash. If you go to the next one, I have introduced another size of particles that is in red particles, maybe that is in metacowl. If you go further down, I have green particles that may be limestone. So as I sequentially increase the number of particles and change the size of particles, I get completely different packing. Then in graph on the right side, I have plotted three different parameters. Very important or useful parameters of microstructure, which is basically material science parameters that any material persons can use, generally use for his study. So first one is coordination number. So coordination number means the number of nearest neighbors. So what are the number of nearest number of each particle? If I take one particle, so how many nearest numbers it has? Basically, how many particles it has in touch with that particle. So what is the significance? If I have many nearest neighbor particles, what just tell me that my packing is much higher. It also tells me indirectly that even I have more particles around one cement grain, it is more likely to react because there are reacting species around the particles. So it does not tell me what exactly it is, but it gives me a broader range. Again, number density. The number density will tell me how many particles are there in a unit level. So the more number of particles, the denser the structure. If the particles are smaller, you will have more number of particles and denser will be the structure. Then the third one is the mean centroidal distance. If I take one cement particle, I will know what is the mean centroidal distance between that particles and like or dislike particles. So it could be a cement, it could be fly ash, or it could be limestone. So you can categorize all of that using these three terms, and you can come up with a nice idea of how the microstructure is packed, and this is the fundamental material science which will help you to design the best. Again, we do this unknowingly most of the time. We select the materials without quantifying this. But for this designing ultra high performance concrete, you cannot afford not to quantify it because the sensitivity is so high that a minor mistake can change a lot of different things. So you have to plan that very carefully. Next, come to the rheology parameter. Next, so because you want to have this thing flowing through a space, because you want to flow this through dense reinforcement, and need to control the rheology. So I have done yield stresses, plastic viscosity, and mini-slump, because here we have test through a mini-slump, because we can generally all the laboratory cannot afford for a rheology test or that. So to design such mixes to have yield stress and plastic viscosity measured using rheometer is very expensive. So we'll go for the mini tool, simple tool, that is mini-slump. So do a mini-slump flow and we will get a rheological parameter. Next, now using these two parameters, I can show you that we have done 33 mixes. We defined what is called the packing coefficient, and it is just a simple mathematical transformation of those three parameters that I talked in the previous slide: coordination number, number density, and mean centered distance. So coordination number means the number of nearest neighbors. As already I have told you that the more the number of nearest neighbors, higher the packing. Therefore, I put that in the numerator. And second one is number density. The number of particles in a unit volume. That means more the number of particles, better the packing, and therefore I put that also in the numerator. So third one is a mean centroidal distance. The distance between a cement grain and a like or dislike particles. So the closer they are, the better packing, which means smaller the distance, better packing. So I put that in the denominator. So now I get a packing coefficient, which is exaggerated effect of all these three things. That is number density, coordination number, and mean centroidal distance. Again, we get a packing fraction, and my a packing fraction has to be greater than the packing fraction of a control mix that has only cement, just to have some kind of comparison. If you can use any comparison tool, I just said when it doesn't matter, you can say 2 times or 5 times greater than from the control mix, and you can say 0.5 times depending on what you actually need. So that is where a designer comes in and says, here is a kind of packing, and I would need. I have my comparable materials with plain cement paste, and I want 5 times more packing or 8 times more packing. So how would I need it? So then for flow, I did same idea for also rheology parameter and idea for slump flow area. So the more the slump flow area, the larger and the better the flow ability. So the higher the yield stress and lower the flow ability. The higher the viscosity, so lower the flow ability. So I put one in numerator and the other two in the denominator. But if you do that, yield stress, plastic viscosity, if you remember, those numbers are very different. So in that case, you will get a very non-linearly number. So for that purpose, I have put a square root. If the numbers, to make the number very simple, which will be lying between 1 and 10. Some people also can use the cube root to make it make the number very convenient. So there is nothing to putting a square root or cube root. So here I have used different Venn diagrams. So in the first Venn diagram is for packing, and here I get 22 mixtures that satisfy all the criteria, and in the middle Venn diagram, 33 mixtures from this list that satisfy all the rheology criteria, and I do a union of those, and I get 17 mixtures that satisfy both the criteria, and those 17 mixtures are shown in green color in the box below. So next we will go to the motor strength. So we did motor strength, and you can see that we can get up to 150 megapascal strength after 20 days. This is 35% of aggregate and 65% paste. Okay, so you normally see it in other way in mortars and concrete. You need that amount of paste to satisfy the workability and the strength criteria, and we get 170 megapascal after 90 days with all these mixes which have 30% cement replacement. So that is fairly good. So now aggregate packing. Now how do you do aggregate packing? If I have one size of aggregate, the best I can do with a small size aggregate is to get a packing fraction of 0.91. But if I start adding more and more, you have separation effect. If spacing difference and stuff, your packing fraction will start to come down. Again, this is not applicable to all sizes. This is applicable to really small sizes of micron scale. If you look at hexagonal close packing, you get 0.74. which is the theoretical maximum packing, and this can also manipulate and put it in a few more sizes and get to a higher value. Next, this is a challenge for us. So what happens when you have irregularly set aggregates? So the challenge is with your irregular placed, so we have something called a virtual maximum packing density. So we want as much of aggregates in concrete as possible, because aggregates gives you the dimensional stability already discussed, and aggregates will control the shrinkage parameters. Aggregates will give you better properties. Aggregates will give you higher elastic modulus. So you want all of this, but then to pack these aggregates, well, which is a challenge because the shape and the size are very, very different. Next, so what we did for ultra high performance concrete is that we did not go for aggregate of size more than number 4. Here I have used 3 different numbers, that is 4, 4, 8 and 10. So the number 4 is generally it is taken, which is 4.75, the sieve size of 4.75 millimeter, that is passing and 9.36 and written on 4.75, and so number 8 is passing 4.75 and written on 2.36, and number 10 is passing 2.36 and written on 1.18. So the 3 different numbers of size of aggregates according to size of aggregates, that is 4, 8 and 10 are the only aggregates that we use in our designing the ultra high performance concrete. So we also use 2 different sands, which is a coarse sand with a median size of 0.6 mm and a fine sand with a median size of 0.2 mm. And again also we have used steel fibers, which is the diameter is taken as 0.2 mm and 13 mm long. So what we did is we separated all these aggregates into different sizes, because you really have a pack them well, and then you use what is called the compressible packing models. So compressible packing models, or it is CPM. So to get all the different size of aggregates that you want, to get the dry rotted unit weight for each of those class of aggregates, put all of them in the compressible packing model along with particle size distribution, come up with a random packing densities. If you do that, you will get random packing densities. So by using MATLAB program, this is some plots for more than 885 different aggregate combinations. So we have a MATLAB code which is formulated, which is the mixing can be done within 5 seconds. So then you plot the random packing density as a function of volume fraction of different aggregates, and you can find out where is the maxima in the packing density for different combinations. So based on those combinations from MATLAB code, we have picked up one with the maximum packing density. So in this case, it is 0.696, where I have 40% of number 4 size of aggregates, 10% of number 8 aggregates, 10% of 10 size aggregates, 20% of concrete sand, which is 0.6 mm, and 20% of fine sand, which is 0.2 mm. So again, we have incorporated the fibers. These long fibers in this matrix of aggregates are going to display some of the aggregates, and you are going to have a lower packing anytime you put in something of a different aspect ratio. And you will see in this picture that the maximum packing density is reduced a little with the addition of fibers. But then the advantage is that the fibers give so much. So in terms of ductility, so you can increase the ductility part of the ultra high performance concrete. So here are the final mixture composition. So I use the selected aggregate combination that I showed that 0.4, 40%, 10%, 10%, 20% by mass of all these aggregates and two different paste mixes. So one with fly ash metakaolin and limestone, and the second one with limestone and silica film. So two different mixes with and without fibers, with water cement ratio 0.16 to 0.18. And a super plasticizer dosage of 1.25% by weight of the binder of all the powders, that is about 5% by weight, including the liquid content of the super plasticizer. Next, we will come to the designing the ultra high performance concrete. So, how we can actually do this? So aggregates are first we have to wash the aggregates and dry. Aggregates are added to the mixer. Fine aggregates are added. Mixing water is added to the aggregates to attain a saturated perfect dry condition, and then mix it together and blend all the aggregates together. Add silica fume first. Next, silica fume is added first to break down the silica fume agglomerates. So you put the silica fume and in silica fume in and make silica fume dispersed by mixing, and then add those limestone, because limestones are the next larger size. Then you mix this well so that you get a good mix, and then add fly ash. Then add first 1/3 of water and super plasticizer, mix it, and then add second 1/3 of the water and super plasticizer. So you have added 2/3 of the water and 2/3 of super plasticizer, and see how the mix look like. Once you add them the right bottom mix, and then between that, the next when you see the difference, that is purely by high shear mixing. So you have just mixed it for 5 to 7 minutes, extremely high shear to break all the particles and to release the water from all the agglomerates. So now you add the last 1/3 of water and super plasticizer, and you see the mix being extremely fluid, and you add steel fibers in that time and mix it. So next, the mix obtained is so good that even with that flowability, there is absolutely no bleeding, no segregation, and you see a very cohesive, very dense mix, and it is very hard to believe that this is a less than 0.2 water cement ratio mix. So you need intense mixing, and you need to mix it for a longer period of time at high shear. So now you have a good ultra high performance concrete mix, which we designed from first principle by packing of particles, by controlling the rheology, by selecting aggregates of sizes, so that you can have all those particles, or all those properties should be satisfied. Next, properties of ultra high performance concrete in the next part. So I will show you only a few properties which is interest regarding mechanical properties like compressive strength, flexural strength, and durability properties like sorptivity. So first, compressive strength. So let us talk about the compressive strength. That if you just do a simple compressive strength test, we'll say that I have 150 or 160 megapascal strength. But like I showed you earlier, the reason why we use ultra high performance concrete is not just for strength. Strength is one thing, but we also want to know how we can use this material in designing the structures. So if you do the design of reinforced concrete structures like bridges or girders or columns, you actually want to know the complete stress strain response and the lateral response. So now the testing has to amount for both the axial deformation and the lateral changes in dimension. So you have to both properties like axial and lateral strain. So if you have to do that, and we are doing this in a displacement control mode, in a closed loop testing with a radial strain control, because your radial strain is much more, and you have a overall volumetric strain is axial strain plus twice the radial strain. So your radial strain is very sensitive, and therefore you have to control the radial strain after you have loaded to about 50% of the peak. So there are a couple of different load changes that you have to do in this kind of testing, and we did it in the ultrasonic pulse velocity testing as the specimen is being loaded, so that we can do non-destructively the elastic modulus under different loading edges. So next, here is the complete axial stress and axial strain and axial radial strain curve for non-fiber reinforced ultra high performance concrete. So you can see the maximum strength is 150 megapascal. So the maximum axial strain is of about 0.35%, which is basically the maximum allowable strain of concrete in the design. So first understanding is that the ultra high performance concrete does not change the maximum axial compressive strain capacity of concrete in unreinforced state or without a reinforced state. So the strength, as we can see, is up to 160 and 170 megapascal, depending on the kind of mix. So you will see the failure pattern of mix right here. Again, very high strength mixes, we fail in this fashion, as you would have seen. So now slightly more different structural aspect to think when you design this mix. What I have shown in this picture on the left top of the stress strain curve, but marking significant points on stress strain curve based on the strain relationship. So what if the bottom curve were the axial strain versus volumetric strain? So the response of axial versus volumetric strain. Volumetric strain is nothing but the axial strain plus twice the radial strain, and the volumetric strain you can use from a simple transformation using Poisson's ratio and the principal stress like sigma 1 and sigma 3. The volumetric crack strain is volumetric strain minus elastic strain. So elastic strain is up to 50% peak is a random definition. So if you look at this, it is some very interesting points. You can see the overall volumetric strain on the bottom picture of the positive axis, and you will see the cracked volumetric strain on the negative axis of the bottom picture, which is the total volumetric strain minus the volumetric elastic strain. So if I take the point of volumetric strain of 0.05 and come to the volumetric strain curve, and then go hit the curve on the elastic part, then that pretty much is first part, that is about 25 megapascal or around that range where you are actually compressing. So you are getting that increased stress because you are closing all the micro cracks within the specimen. So you have the small positive volumetric strain, but you are closing micro cracks in that specimen. Now, if you look at that point where the crack volumetric strain tends to deviate from 0, and if you take it all the way up, you will get what is called the crack initiation stress, which is basically your end of linear elastic region. Now, what happens? Normally, you do this all very randomly. You take the slope, you say that slope has kind of look to change, and then you take it. In ultra high performance concrete, you cannot do that because the linear elastic range is much higher because of a very high strength of material. So you have to actually have this kind of transformation. So to understand where the crack initiation starts. So you can see that at 50 to 60 megapascal, you start the crack initiation stress and strain, and that is the end of linear elastic regime. So now I am not defining my linear elastic regime as 75% of peak stress, like you normally do a linear elastic regime as wherever the tangent intersect or whatever. It is basically based on the idea of strains. So the crack volumetric strain more fundamental, more material response related to rather than a random fixture of points. So that crack initiation stress and the other important point is a crack damage stress, where the volumetric strain reverses to dilation or failure. So you see that point marked 4 in the curve, where the volumetric strain starts to go back into dilation, and then the crack damage stress. Volumetric strain reverse the dilation, and you have an unstable crack growth that is happening. So that So that is the crack damage stress, and we will call the crack initiation stress and the crack damage stress as critical stress state for ultra high performance concrete. So unlike conventional concrete where you have only the peak strength or peak stress, you actually need these two stress state because you are designing this material to carry extremely high loads and be very durable, and crack initiation is not what you want at very early ages. So crack damage or state that state where you have starting to have dilation is the end of the load carrying capacity normally. So again in sigma CD 125 megapascal is pretty much what you can theoretically use for design because beyond that what we are seeing the effects of loading and a rapid increase in volumetric strain and which is loading effect. So you do not want to consider that. So crack initiation and crack damage stress and about 25% lower than peak stress. So two different critical stress states are here. So next we will go for flexural strength of ultra high performance concrete. Generally 20 to 25 megapascal of flexural strength for these materials if you have it for fiber enforced extremely high flexural strength. So here you can see the effect of fibers again. You see here the fibers bridging the cracks. A lot of fibers in flexural failure. So next to give you a few important points in the load deformation plot, if you see the top picture at the stage A corresponds to just the static loading pattern. You have almost no strain set up in the material. So whatever you see those pink strains at the edges are of the compression of the loading support. It is not really the effect of loads, but you just start to see some patterns of strain emerge. Again, at the stage B, it is pretty close to the peak load, and you will have some tensile stresses that you see at the bottom and more compression in the top. When you come to C, stage C, which is at the peak, this is the fiber reinforced specimen. That is why you will see a lot of deflections happening here, and this is the fiber reinforced mortar, not concrete. That is why you can see deflection happening. So at stage C, you will start to see some localization of strain in the tension zone of the beam. And if you go to the stage D, which is further down in the post-peak region, you will see a lot of strains at the center point of the beam where you will likely have formed the crack. So this is the flexural testing of ultra high performance concrete. So I will show you a picture to actually how how the pattern is emerging as a function of loads. So this is all the stages that I have shown you in this video. You can see compression and tension. You see tension building up in the blue. You see those flames coming up at the bottom. So those are the strains. When you start to see the red, can you see the crack here now? Then okay. So if you theoretical calculate the process zone as some value of strain, then you can actually quantify what the process zone is and how the process zone changes with load, and you will see random cracking, and you will see very extremely high strains at different locations. Okay, so finally we go for the few notes on durability. So here we have tested the resorption or water transport. So this similarity relationship regarding duration, which is also tested for if you go for the RCPT test. So you can do initially subjectivity, which is the water intake immediately after you put it in for 6 hours, and then for the long term subtractivity that you measure for 10 to 14 days, we'll see that the initial subtractivity is governed by the larger pores, which can absorb a lot of water early on. The long term subtractivity is also governed by some amount of diffusion, also through the smaller pores in the material, and it is not completely diffusion. You have not probably transformed into completely diffusion control design, but it will give a fair indication of size of smaller pores of the material also, which you can see the secondary subtlety is much lower. So next you will go to the design of ultra high performance concrete. So finally, I will give you one little note on design. There is going to be conventionally different design philosophy. So the picture that you see on the left is the ultra high performance concrete section with just steel fibers. The immediate thing to notice is that there is no change in strain diagram. It is like exactly like a conventional concrete strength diagram with 0.003 as the maximum concrete compressive strength, but I have changes in stress block. So the concrete below the neutral axis is not should not just wasted, and a significant amount of tensile stress is carried by it. So there are two different advantages here. First one is that if you design a high strength concrete section, your neutral axis starts to shift off, and lot of concrete below will get wasted depending upon the application of the beam. But now you will not have that concrete wasted. So you have to certain tensile capacity of that concrete which can be used beneficially. So the second advantage is that what we call a hybrid reinforced section, where you have a reinforced concrete beam with a ultra high performance concrete that has some fibers. So you have a multiple effect. The area below the neutral axis, you have a tensile contribution of steel, which is the area of steel, plus the tensile contribution of fiber reinforced concrete, which you do a constitutive model for compression and tension, and you can see that constitutive model for compression is a bilinear curve. So increase in compression, elastic, and then a plastic region, and in case of steel tension, it is a trilinear curve. So where you have an increase in tensile stress, a drop, and then plastic region in the tensile zone, and you have different parameters. So now with this, you can start to design your section much more efficiently and much more economically, so that you are using a quite bit of advantages of concrete. So, so in summary, you have a multi-level of particle packing approach, both for the paste fraction as well as for the aggregate fraction. So paste fraction is by packing of particles, and rheology and aggregate fraction is by what we say is a compressible packing model. But you can use any kind of packing model. You can have very high compressive strength, flexural strength, ductility is also very high, durability is also very high, and we have done cracking test. Cracking propensity is low, provided you cure them really well. And so there are issues with the original shrinkage, which has to be very well controlled by mixing self-curing property or like that material, and this property can also be accomplished by robust rational mixture design procedure. And you can also you cannot do a general mixes and procedure using any other standard available methods by which generally the main parameter is the water cement ratio, but here water cement ratio is basically a secondary parameter here. First is always we should have to look after the packing of particles. So water cement ratio is that which is required to make this thing flow and fill. So you have to have careful material design to ensure that it is economical, and then structural design modification to account for significant improvement in tensile capacity. And it is the tensile capacity and ductility that makes this material very different from conventional concrete. So finally, I have some references, useful references here for anybody who wanting to look at more, and there are different papers where nicely explained the entire particle packing and mixture design philosophies. So here in the first, I have mentioned N. Narayanan, which is he has published a paper that is a microstructural packing and rheology based binder selection and characterization for ultra high performance concrete, which is published in Cement and Concrete Research. Actually, all these materials I have borrowed from this paper. You can refer that paper, and he has nicely explained all these regarding packing of particles, designing of ultra high performance concrete in his paper. So you can go through this, and in-depth knowledge you can get from this paper. So thank you very much for your patient listening to me. So over to you, sir. Please.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jana, for that interesting presentation on ultra high performance concrete. In fact, we had a very interesting discussion. You had even touched upon how to utilize the best properties of concrete in the design as well. That is very important. Yes. And as well as the various properties of ultra high performance concrete. Now, there are some questions which has come about. Now, the question is, which is better? Is it self-compacting concrete or high-performance concrete or ultra-high performance concrete? And what is the limit between ultra-high performance concrete and high-strength concrete?
Actually, sir, as per your requirement, you can design. Like, suppose if you have a very congested reinforcement, then you will go for self-consolidating concrete. But here I have, in my presentation, I have used both self-consolidating concrete as well as ultra high performance concrete. If my reinforcement is very congested, so in that case also this type of ultra high performance concrete you can use, which is a strength up to 150 or 170, beyond 150 or 170. So according to your requirement, you can design whether high performance concrete or ultra high performance concrete or self-consolidating concrete.
That is well answered, because I think that is very right, because based on the requirements that you need at site. Supposing if you have congested steel reinforcement, then you will have to have a higher workability and a self-compacting characteristics. If it is there, it is good. So I think whenever you enhance a particular property in concrete, maybe it may be workability, it may be strength, it may be durability, or it may be a specific parameter which can be. Only thing is that we are telling it by different names. But only thing is, ultra high performance concrete is something which is having a much higher strength, as right, by more than 150 MPa.
Already, sir, I have given some applications there. If you go for design, if you are constructing a bridge deck or bridges or very high strength columns, so in that case also you can design for ultra high performance for that structures.
The problem is that in our country, sometimes, in certain parts of the country, they will have the ordinary mixture, but they will dream about ultra high performance concrete. So the right level
actually, in this condition, in this designing, you have to look after the packing of particles.
Correct.
If packing of particles is good, then you will get much strength.
Yeah. Okay, any software for practical distribution percentage for better test results, which is asked by Mr. Abhi Malini?
Yeah, you can go for a MATLAB programming. If you know MATLAB programming, already I have mentioned. If you are going to designing a concrete, whereas self-consolidating concrete or ultra high performance concrete or high strength concrete, if you know the programming of MATLAB by going to the lab and designing lots of trial mixes, and you will come up with one or two mix which may or may not work. So in that case also you can put those property in the program, and you will have the idea how to design the mixes, means ultra high performance concrete or high performance concrete or self-consolidating concrete. That can be also again you can also modify according to your programming.
All right. So Mr. Maheshwar Shetty has this question: what is 1.54 in dry calculation? You show something. 1.54 in dry calculation.
Dry rotted. Yes. Actually, for packing of different aggregates, generally apparatus is there, dry rotted apparatus. in that condition, proper packing of aggregate can be done for the aggregate purpose.
Is there any study on heat of hydration?
No, sir, actually, in this slide, I have not mentioned the heat of hydration, but you can study the heat of hydration. So, in that is an in-depth research on that heat of how much heat will generate when water is added to the cement. So, that is another parameter. So, you can go for that.
Okay, another question, very innovative question by Mr. Prasad is UHPC paste, can it be used for RCC cracks and failures?
RCC cracks and failures. That is also again according to your requirement. If generally we are designing for different structures, generally
Correct.
for structures generally we go for ultra high performance concrete. For repairing purpose, we can use any kind of paste or mortars. But,
It all depends on what kind of repair and rehabilitation. It has to be studied in detail, and yeah, based on the correct, based on the problem, you will have to design it.
yes, sir.
Yeah, how is sustainability taken care in UHPC design? Binder content is more than conventional type, is what Ms. Somya Srinivasan wants to ask.
Sustainability means, sir, here you can see we have used a lot of base materials like silica fume, which is also a waste product, metakaolin, and also different types of limestones, which is generally available, normally available materials. So any kind of waste materials also you can use, but the main aim is to the packing of particles. So you have to make all the sizes of particles in your mix so that it will properly pack and you will get a proper strength.
Can it be used for high-rise buildings and all? Has it been used somewhere? Is the question.
So already, generally, this type of strength of concrete is generally used for bridges, because
Bridges.
generally bridges generally we require high strength concrete. But for high-rise of buildings, generally we are not using only high performance concrete is more than enough for
Correct.
constructing the high-rise building.
I think for high-rise building, what is important is it has to flow.
Flow,
Mostly
it should
self-compacting
have,
concrete, yeah.
as well as it should be lightweight also. In that
Correct.
case, it should be lightweight.
So it all depends on the structure and all that. So
Yes.
it's very interesting because we had a discussion yesterday on self-compacting concrete, and then before that we had on high-performance concrete. So then geopolymer concrete we had. So when you have so much discussion, I think
Yes.
questions like this is bound to come up. So it was very interesting. Anyhow, many of them have started knowing about this, especially the budding civil engineers. I'm sure that would have got a fairly good knowledge about these various types of concrete. And one thing is the concrete technology is not confined now. It is so wide, so
Yes,
broad that there is a lot of scope for everyone. So I think many of the budding civil engineers are in a very interesting phase now, because there is so much creativity, there is so much opportunities for them, especially in the field of concrete technology, and with the kind of blending materials and all that. So to continue with this discussion, we would be having one more talk tomorrow at 3 p.m. on mixed design methodology for fly ash and GGBS based geopolymer concrete by Dr. G. Mallikarjuna Rao. And that is tomorrow's timing is, please make a note of tomorrow's timing. It is at 3 p.m. So not at 11 a.m. I believe. So 3 p.m. we have a talk tomorrow. In case there is any other talk at 11 a.m., we will let you know through our Facebook page. So it was very interesting having your presentation, Engineer Vishwajit Jana. You took off your time from your busy schedule, and you could spend your time with us, sharing with a number of construction professionals across the country, and it was very interesting. So thank you so much for having joined us, and
Thank you very much, sir.
we will be in touch with each other, and our MACE engineers are there. MACE manager Mr. Avdesh Kumar Singh is all over there at Odisha, and our MACE engineer is there, and our project head Mr. Chandi Prasad Mohanty is also based at Odisha. So we have a good network there in the state of Odisha as well, and our upcoming grinding unit is also coming there.
So thank you all of you. Thank you all of you, sir. thank you for giving me an opportunity to share my little knowledge regarding this high performance concrete in this platform. So very much proud for myself that Ramco Cements has given me this opportunity. So thank you all of you. Especially thanks to Sir Pillai sir and to Engineer Sumant Chandra Sahu and Aplesh sir also. And thank you all the participants. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. So we will sign off from today's webinar and meet tomorrow at 3 p.m. for the next webinar. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, sir.